Heroes in Crisis number 7. So I'll have to start off in a positive light, and I'm curious as to how positive or negative Connor will be, because Connor, notably, has not been super positive on Heroes in Crisis recently. But for the record, Tom King writing with Clayman and Jorge Fornes on the art. So
No, you're right. I've not been super positive. It's why I didn't read it. I
oh,
left this till last. I've not been enjoying it, and I got to the end. It's like I don't want to read this. Screw it. I'm not doing it. I don't want to read it anymore. It's making me angry, and I don't want to be angry today.
now I need to sit and talk about Heroes in Crisis on my own.
I know.
Because Matt's not here. I don't know if you noticed this, but Matt's not here.
I know it's Matt's fault. I'll pretend I read it. I'll nod along. I'll say yes. The art's very good, but Tom King's writing is atrocious.
I feel like
making me angry. He's doing things with there's implications that I don't like.
If you had read this, I think you'd be complaining about the art switching for some pages.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a couple of pages with Batman and Flash that are very different to the rest.
Is it bad art or just jarring?
It's not bad art, it's just jarring in difference.
Yeah, I hate when that happens. I really do. I've seen the title page because I saw Tom King tweet it with all the flowers. I thought, that was a gorgeous image. I'll give it that.
Yeah, that builds up to the end, because the only interviews we get in this one, because obviously we've had the interviews throughout all the issues, it's all Wally. Every interview's Wally. So we're getting to kind of the meat of what's going on.
Oh, it's only taken 7 issues to get to, not for it to be in Wally, to focus on one character for these interviews rather than just flip around.
And Wally starts off quite chipper, and it's basically him breaking down and getting more depressed as these interviews go on. And there's plot with Harley and Booster with Batgirl and Blue Beetle, and then Batman and Flash are looking for people. But the Wally stuff's the big headline and stuff here, so I'm starting with that.
Yeah, because even I'd seen some of the headlines about Wally. I didn't read all of them, but
yeah. So Wally, we know that Wally, the body that was found was 5 days older than it should have been. Right, that's a fact.
yes.
I'm reminded of that fact in this as well, because Booster and whoever bring it up, and Harley's always, so Wally's not dead, and he's like, yeah, but it's been 5 days now since he was found, so I guess he is dead. And like, but is this a rescue mission now? Are we trying to like rescue Wally before he dies? Is that what we're doing now? And I'm like, okay, alright, yeah, let's save Wally. But of course, one of the things that we've all been worried about, based on some solicits, based on things that have happened recently, is that Wally's actually the killer. That
yes.
And him getting depressed over the course of this, So we have this scene towards the end where Wally's using his lightning, his speed force, to make some flowers bloom. And we have this full page spread where he's seemingly brought Poison Ivy to life. She comes out of the flower, right? It's just this blooming kind of, it's a beautiful page.
She's back then.
She's there, she's back. And it's like, okay, alright. Where are we going with this? And then Wally's like, I'm sorry, and she's like, you helped me, you brought me back. He's like, no, I didn't help you, I hurt you, and then I did this doesn't make up for it. And I'm sorry you're going to have to see this. And she's like, what am I going to have to see? You're going to see my death. And he stands up, and there's another Wally staring at him.
Oh, for God's sake.
So there's 2 Wallys, one presumably having travelled through time.
Yeah.
Standing there. And the older one's going to die. So essentially, it feels like there's like a loop happening here with Wally. There's some sort of loop going on with murdering himself. I don't know. I mean, they didn't reveal that he murdered himself yet, but
Yet.
Yeah. I mean, the last page of the book's the final interview, and he's like, week 3. I didn't think this would even take 3 weeks, but here we are. And then he just gets more depressed as the page goes on. And then he says at the end, can't wait for week 4. And he looks miserable.
Sounds about right. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm glad I didn't read it. I think this would have infuriated me.
Joe, what's frustrating is I actually think the stuff with the other characters is the best it's been the whole book. Like, the stuff with basically Booster Gold and Blue Beetle with Batgirl and Harley. It's because at first when Harley we start with their story, Harley's beating the shit out of Booster Gold, or trying to at least, and
I can get behind that.
basically Batgirl and Ted are just sort of standing there going, like, does she know he's got like a shield thing on? He's like, yeah, but I think she's going to try and get through or whatever. And they're just kind of they're having running commentary, and and Batgirl's like, I told her multiple times not to try and kill anyone, right? And she's immediately trying to kill people. And so it's just a funny commentary going on.
So Babs feels a bit better in this issue then. Is that what you're saying?
I would say she feels better. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know last time there was some awkward things here or there.
Yeah, there was no "You Rock Batman" moment or anything like that. There was nothing quite like that. And then eventually, so the four of us are going to team up and try and save Wally. Because should we not take this information to the Justice League, to whoever? And it's like, no, if Wally's feeling hurt, then maybe a smaller team, a smaller, more intimate thing might help better. I'd argue bringing Barry into it might help, given that he's Barry and it's Wally. But
yeah,
I mean, let's ignore that logic for now.
It's not like any of them have a huge connection with Wally, is it?
Not specifically, no. So, so Booster gets all, yes, we should do this. And he gets all heroic kind of sounded. He's like, yes, the blue and the gold, and he looks at like Harley and Batgirl, and Harley goes, the dynamic duo, and Babs is like, no. So that side of things was good. I like that they're playing with the Wally time loop stuff. I think my frustration here is that we've spent 7 issues building up Wally's depressed that he might be homicidal. Right? No, he's not depressed that he may be he's depressed to the point where he might be homicidal, is what I mean to say.
Yes.
He's not depressed because he's homicidal. Yes, depressed and homicidal. It's a really hard thing to swallow when you really care about this character, and like, I feel like they should have revealed some of this earlier on. Like, if we set up the mysteries being more, okay, what's the weird thing that's going on here? But it wasn't. The first 5 issues were like, reactions to this and all the flashbacks and
I mean, if this had been issue 3 as opposed to 7, and I'd read it obviously at that point, maybe I wouldn't have had a as big a problem with it.
I'm expecting a swerve though. I'm expecting that it's not just like.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I don't like. I have to assume that the end of this story is that Wally is not a homicidal maniac and he didn't kill everyone. And here's the thing though, is even if he doesn't die, like, do I want Wally West to be around just to be like clinically depressed all the time because his wife and kids are gone? Like, obviously I want them to deal with that, but I want them to deal with that in the sense that I want them to come back and eventually he'll be happy because we'll solve that problem. Instead we have a character, the character who represents what we feel about the New 52 is basically just having to suffer through the fact that it's never getting fixed. So if he represents us, it not only is it depressing because we love Wally and we want Wally to be, good old light-hearted Wally with a sense of humour, but it's also depressing because he reflects us, and if he reflects us and he's depressed and can never have what he wants, then it's like we've been told we're depressed and we can never have what we want.
It says Didio all over it.
So I have to believe that in the final 2 issues, the actual resolution to this story will leave us in a better place on that front. I really hope it does.
I am noting though that at the start of this book, at the end of the first issue, you're like, that's fine. It's all gonna be sorted. Don't worry about it. You're really positive and chipper. It's like it's just a comic. It's just shock value. There's nothing to worry about here. And now you're like, I really hope this is where it's going. There's a lot less certainty in your voice.
That's because we're 6 out of 9 or 7 out of 9, and it I don't know, like, my patience, even though I've liked a lot of what's been in this book in places, I do think it's been on too long. I think it's taken too long to cut to the chase of what the actual plot is. And I like some of King's exploration of character, I really do, but some of it's felt a little bit off, some voices have felt a bit off. And for every scene I've liked, there's been something else that's felt just kind of, I don't know, self-indulgent or whatever. This one, is one of the better issues in the series because it actually feels like a lot of things are happening and advancing. It does not feel like it's stalling or
it's one of the better issues because there's plot. Is that what you're saying?
But it also feels like it's getting into some of the mystery, right? And that's great. I think the weird, bittersweet part of it now, though, is that it's so late on in the overall story now that as much as I actually like this issue more from an actual momentum perspective, from an actual, like you say, there's plot perspective, I am terrified of where it's going with Wally. I am actually terrified of where it's going to leave him.
Now the problem is that, okay, if this is the plot, but we're so late, how much time is there left to actually undo this?
And even if we undo it, does it actually in any way leave Wally in a better place than the crushing depression that he's in right now?
I think it will be very hard for this to be, even for people like you who've been mostly enjoying the book, for this to have a satisfying ending to this mystery when we're only really just starting the mystery 3 issues from the end.
I think the problem is that I can see this getting to the end and having its end, and it's like you can see maybe where the craft was and what King was doing. I think this might be a case of at the end of this, I might just sit there and say, conceptually, I just was never going to be on board with what they were going to do with Wally here.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, I like Wally more than Barry. I would happily kill Barry in a heartbeat to have Wally around as the Flash.
I mean, I'd say most people do.
Most people our age would. I think there's a younger generation now who would not agree with that. There's now a younger generation who have mainly had Barry.
That's fair.
And there's an older generation who have mainly had Barry. We are us millennials and some people who are a bit
filthy
older.
Millennials.
Yes, filthy millennials, and maybe a little bit older as well. Maybe just I'd say Gen X is probably as well. Gen X and millennials, they love Wally West. We do.
Mm.
I'm worried conceptually where this is going. This was definitely one of the better issues, though, in the sense that there wasn't as many problems with the voices feeling off. Some of the Harley stuff with her being excited with working with Batgirl and co was actually pretty funny. Like there's a couple of panels where the four of them, like, they're sitting kind of deflated and basically just try to figure out, is Wally alive? Can we save him? Are we forming a plan here? And it kind of felt like, yeah, four oddballs are sitting down and kind of like, we should try and save the day. And my only critique of this is that Batgirl feels a little bit like an odd duck in this lineup, because if the whole point is here is that four misfits are going to end up saving the day, Batgirl's the one who sticks out as not really being a misfit.
She's on every team.
Yeah, like Booster Gold, Harley Quinn, Blue Beetle. Yes, these are. I mean, Harley's not really a C-lister by any means, but she's wacky and crazy. And then Booster and Blue, the Blue and the Gold, they're C-listers through and through, right? They're the riff-raff. I feel like if you swap Babs with even Stephanie, it would maybe just work a bit better in what it's doing.
What you're saying is King is disrespecting Babs. By even alluding to the fact that she's on the level with these guys.
I wasn't really thinking about it in that sense, but I don't know. Like who should this be instead? I don't know, because I mean, if the ultimate story here is there's a team of, like, let's say if you break this down to just what the plot is, there's some sort of weird time loop that makes Wally West look like he's a killer of a bunch of people at Sanctuary, and there's a mystery to go along with that, and the ultimate thing that's going to help save the day is a team of four misfits and C-listers, not unlike, say, the Legends of Tomorrow, who are going to end up, actually storming in and saving the day when the Trinity couldn't, right?
Yeah, being a little chainsaw.
That sounds like a great story to me. On it, just if you just give me that concept, but so much of Heroes in Crisis is not really that.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. I mean, did I like this issue? I have mixed feelings on it. Like, I've had mixed feelings in the last couple, even though I've liked parts of it.
You've still got to give it a rating.
I do. I'm going to give it a 6.5. I can't quite call it good, even though the art is typically very good. Although, when it comes to Batman and Flash, which honestly, those scenes, I feel like those 2 pages or whatever it was, you could probably just cut out. It didn't
Who did you say the artist was?
Jorge Fornes will be those pages.
That's the guy who did that issue of Batman that I really liked, I think, recently.
Yeah, that's good. Like, it's
pulpy noir one.
Yeah, it's very pulpy, yeah. But it's very Dixie Man's pages. You turn the page and Batman and Flash are looking a lot more flatter.
That's jarring, yeah. Because I like that art a lot, but I would hate it next to Man's clean with the sleek colours.
Yeah, it almost felt like they were playing Barry for laughs in those pages, which felt odd
Really?
because yeah, he's doing this thing where he's searching all over the planet, and he keeps like speeding back out of the Batcave to say that they're not in Europe or they're not in South America, and Batman's like like you could just call me on the Bat radio. He's like I'm quicker than the Bat radio, and it felt like it was a comedy scene more than it was anything. I was like, this is Barry's the one who should be more devastated than anyone right now and taking this seriously, but.
Yeah.
I don't know. 6.5. But like I said, art's typically pretty good. I didn't notice, at least off the top of my head, any sleazy panels like that issue 5 or 4, whatever one that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's actual developments. I'm intrigued by the mystery, and I hope it ends in a better place. It's one of these things though where this story. It's because I always complain that comic fans sometimes like jump the gun when something's solicited early on and they go, "Oh, it's going to be this, we're going to hate it," and I'm like, "No."
I was talking about that with Green Lantern recently.
Yeah, let the story play out and see where it's going. The weird thing with this story though is the way it's been paced by King is it's spent so long just setting up the core idea that people didn't like that you're nervous that they're not going to do the full arc and actually get to the other side at the end where no, this is what it really is, or this is what this is what the heroes learned, this is what's really going on, or whatever.
No, I'm with you.
So, and then the added caveat here is that okay, even if we do fix this by the end, Wally's still a depressing wreck, and I don't know if we can fix that.
Appreciate it.
It's almost like like Wally coming back was this like character that represented the hopes and dreams of the New 52, right? He was the character who represented Rebirth, and
absolutely.
And putting him through this is almost cruel because it's just kind of trying to kill everything we cared about in Rebirth.
We always talk how Wally West represents the hope of Rebirth, right?
Yeah, and I've taken that away from him.
At the start of this book, we said, "Oh, and they killed off hope," right? And it's worse than that.
Well, no, but it's more than that though, because Wally even says in this issue, he says, and he's had this sentiment a couple of times in this book, is that he feels this burden because everyone looks at him like he represents hope, like he feels this burden by everyone around him, but he can't help but think that his wife and kids are missing. He can't be that, and I'm like, you're taking the character who represents this thing to us, and you're making it a burden for him to be that. You're having him tell us that he feels awful.
It's
feeling that way.
It's almost trying to make us guilty for liking Wally West.
Yes, and I don't necessarily think that's the intention. I don't think
no.
This is some master plan that King has worked out with Didio, because I don't think King has a reason to make us want to hate Wally West.
No, Didio does, but don't like King.
Does, but... Anyway, I want to stop being that because I know from Twitter, from when I asked the question, what some people picked Heroes in Crisis, so I know some people really like this issue. And all power to you, by all means. Like, in comments and whatever, give me your takes. Give me why this story's working for you.
Pretty much why I decided just to not read it. I don't have the energy to get angry, and I know I was going to get angry, and I just I don't need that.
So you're telling me you're not going to finish it? You're not going to catch up on this?
I don't think I am going to go back. Unless I'm in a really bad mood one day and I'm just like, screw it, might as well.
I hope something so important happens in issue 8 that you have to read it.